Good morning, Valen, and a very warm welcome to all of you at home, wherever you may be across South Africa. And in fact, a lot of the countries beyond our borders watching via DSTV channel 404. Yet today we're talking about the province of KwaZulu-Natal. It wasn't that long ago when the Premier was inaugurated, 26th of May, in fact. And so it's been around 100 days since then. And in his speech, he made a number of promises. He says that he was going to do amazing things in this province. And we're going to check in with him and find out what the first 100 days have been like of this new administration. And also at the back of that, we have the question or the challenges that youth are facing. And if you tuned in earlier, you would have heard me say that, you know, over half the country is under 39 and 72% of the unemployed people in South Africa are under 34. So a lot of the issues that concern South Africans actually concern young people. So we're interested to know what the state of the youth is for this part of the world. And what's interesting also is that KwaZulu-Natal is the second largest economy in South Africa. So they're contributing the second largest to the South African economy. It's experiencing a higher growth rate than the national growth rate. So something is happening that is positive and moving forward on the economic front. But this certainly doesn't come without its challenges. And those are the ones that we're going to unpack as well and find out what is it that KwaZulu-Natal is doing well that they're enjoying this growth spurt, and is it sustainable? Well, let's find out from the man at the helm himself, as we say. A very warm welcome to the Honourable Premier of the province of KwaZulu-Natal, Premier Senzo Mchunu. Thank you very much for joining us, and welcome to the program. Good to have you again.
Good morning, Peter, and good morning to all the viewers and all the people from KwaZulu-Natal who are here with us. Well, of course, just to start with, we are quite happy to see the changes of the weather today and yesterday, and we hope that this gets sustainable, because rains and water is something that we need very much. And bulk of our water will come from rivers coming from the rain. And we're hopeful, and all South Africans, particularly in KwaZulu-Natal, should stay hopeful. Those who can pray harder.
Okay.
That's what I would say for me.
All right, so it's 100 days on, and let's try and unpack some of the things that have been happening. You made quite a number of promises. People voted for you in this province, so they had expectations. How has been the first 100 days? Start with the major things that you said, this is what we're going to do, and how far are you down? Because the opposition parties are saying that you're not doing a great job.
Well, I don't know where they are talking from. I suppose that where they are sitting, they're sitting in a house which has no windows and no doors, and they can't hear and see anything outside. But where we are, we made a number of not just promises but undertakings, and that is serious. We're not going to make promises and run away anyway. We're here, and we're still here after 100 days. The first thing that we had said, we had outlined the issues of social conditions of some of our people, some of the categories of our people in the province, and undertook even before the inauguration that we didn't like the way the situation or the conditions under which they were living. And we mentioned, among others, the clearance of slums. And in particular, we mentioned Chigajo and Pietermaritzburg as one of the slums that would start with. And I'm from there. I've gone there with all the relevant authorities at local government level, and we started working. And as I talk to you, we have cleared a portion of that slum so that we can start building houses, and we then clear the other portion without taking them anywhere, and then start building. We will build high-rise buildings so that they occupy them, but some of them will be for rental. And I'm quite happy with progress that I saw about two or three weeks ago, and that is real. And we started it from scratch. It was just slum, nothing else, and we're clearing it for the betterment of the people and their lives there. That's one thing. But elsewhere, like in Potchefstroom and in Guaduguza municipality, where we had said these are the first priorities. At least I'm from KwaZulu as well, and we launched the housing project, and I could see what progress we've registered there. Houses some have been completed, some are halfway, and a number of those that have been completed, they're just short of water for toilets inside, but we've provided them with toilets. But I can tell you, it's a complete change, 100% change of the people's lives whom we've taken from slums, and we've built a proper housing for them. And this is real. You can go and see in my absence. I haven't gone to Potchefstroom, but I know that progress has been registered there as well, and all over, and the work is going to continue for the next 5 years, clearing those slums. But that's one thing. On electricity front, although there are challenges with regard to Eskom and other related matters within Eskom, but we made a firm undertaking that would go to Mayatle, that would in Ekpopo, that's called to Butlebezu now, and we made a firm undertaking that would go to Ofafa. We have gone there. We have conversed with people, and we've started the projects to put electricity to them. I've gone back to them after the undertaking to report progress to them, and we're making that progress as in terms of our undertakings. But we also promised or undertook that within 100 days we would do at least one project with regard to the future of our children, future of young people. And in mind, we had the training of young people, because they are our future and they need to be trained in some cases in things that have not been there before. We are going to start on those, starting new careers, training young people on new careers altogether. You know, in our time, you would be a teacher or a nurse or a policeman. Now, these people, they are facing a totally new, different kind of setup, and they need to be trained and introduced in those different fields. But the specific thing we made an undertaking on was that we have identified the gap in our pharmacy portfolio and with regard to professionals there. And we said we're talking to a university in India, Manipal University, and we were about to agree that they take some children to go there, and we've done that. We've taken 30 children. They are now in India as I talk, 30 of them, and they're training in pharmacy and another related field. And we're quite impressed with that, because they're going to come back and then fill up the gap with regard to pharmacy. But we also launched in health, we went to Richards Bay with MSc for Health. We launched a very impressive and groundbreaking project, where all along we have had a problem that other areas in KwaZulu-Natal are not accessible, even when there are emergencies and you require an ambulance and you can't get there. And the only way to do is to fly. When it's at night, you couldn't because everything was dark. So we were introducing a new setup altogether, where a pilot gets into a chopper and then wear goggles that light up. I did experiment on this thing. I'm not a
flying
pilot. I couldn't take that risk. But what happened? They put us with MSc for Health on a chopper with a pilot, and they made us wear these goggles. And indeed, very amazing. You can travel the whole night now over Gwavuma, over Mahlabatini, over Ntwati, where I come from, over Esngoleni, over everywhere in KwaZulu-Natal wearing this. And these are young people who are doing this, very impressive. And you just see everything, very light, very bright, and you pick up a person who requires attendance, and you drop them in the nearest hospital, and then you save their lives. Something totally new, something very exciting.
So clearly, some of the things you've been able to address and start chipping away and making progress. And I'm sure that during the course of this conversation, the other achievements will come through. But let's just start unpacking some of the things that you said. You've spoken about service delivery. And yet, you pick up the paper and the first thing you see, service delivery protests in, is it Tweedy, near Howick? And I'm just wondering, if you are succeeding and making progress, why is it that last week, literally just days ago, you've got these kinds of protests still happening?
Let me just cite one example. There's a place called Matunduve, just outside KwaZulu-Natal as a town. And there was a service protest there. And two MECs went there, MEC Nkonyane and MEC Klaba. And one of the things that we get is that people are protesting because they don't have houses. And yet they see trucks passing that place with their blocks to build houses in Maphumulo, which is nearby. And they want to block these trucks with blocks so that they can, and they want houses right at Matunduve instead of. What we have to explain to our people is that you can't do everything everywhere at the same time. But you can do everything everywhere, but you require time to do that. When we have a plan to build housing in KwaMaphumulo, it means their time has arrived. And we can't at the same time lie to the public and say the time to build housing in Ndwedwe, the time to build housing in Hluhluwe or in Kokstad has arrived at the same time.
All right, so
but we don't build one project at a time, but at least those that we plan must be given
the question is then, is it that mistakes have been made in the past that you've had to accelerate now, or have you done the best you can since day one?
No, we've done our best. And as I say, the people are protesting about what they see and what they know, that these are the blocks, and maybe if we block the truck, they can start building right here in Matunduve, and we're coming with our plans are getting together.
Msunduzi municipality apparently has 72 informal settlements. How is that possible?
Well, it's possible if you look at it that, of course, quite a number of those are a legacy of our past. If you then say, what have we been doing in the past 20 years, you just don't have had a situation where you had a budget such that would allow you to clear all of them at the same time. But if you compare that with the kind of houses that were built in that place, there's a massive housing project in Maritzburg in Vulindlela, one of the biggest in the country, and ministers will be visiting that massive in a rural area, so it's coming. But there are other ones. In Mbali is, I mean, if you were there if we were last there in 1994, you would need a guide to take you through Mbali Township. The massive buildings, massive housing projects that have come into that place, and elsewhere in Umgeni, and I mean Moy River itself. I mean in 1994 and a few years after that, what did you see in Moy River? Nothing. Brandville was just a small place, but today it has got quite a. It's now a big settlement area. So I'm saying as in Keteni where there was a protest and we went there. In 30 minutes we had addressed it, and it was a question of people having been patient for some time and developing a mistrust with local councillors. And once we came and said the very same thing that councillors had been saying, they were impressed and said, now that you are saying it, we believe it. It's a question that we are grappling with land there because it's in private hands, and we are trying to facilitate that it gets into government, and then we build houses for them. And
so it does seem that maybe communication might be something that you need to look at.
Definitely. It has been identified as one of the areas in which we are struggling, because people sit there and they think you have forgotten, or you don't know that they exist. And it's something that we have to address.
Well, we've got a lot of questions here. And we've also got a lot of tweets coming through and a number of other issues to discuss. And one of them is that, everyone talks about Gauteng, but KwaZulu-Natal has become, sadly, the top province in terms of murder rates. So we'll find out a little bit about that after this break. Stay with us.
Can South Africans survive 2014?
Many of us actually were given bursaries by state-owned enterprises, but the state shrunk, telecom was privatized, and now you are sitting with huge unemployed people.